Our next word problem we have in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis, the number of bank failures began to fall sharply between 2010 and 2012. So what that means is our recession in 2008, so many banks were failing, and then it started to be less and less between 2010 and 2012. We were recovering, less banks were failing. The number of bank failures from 2010 through 2012 is described by the function f of t here. And this works between 0 and 2 years, because it works between 2010 and 2012. You could estimate outside of that domain, but it might not be even close to right, because this is where it's guaranteed. Where f of t is measured in thousands. So our output is in thousands of bank failures, and t is measured in years. So there's our input. Okay, so we're going to plug in years, and we're going to get out the number of bank failures. We don't really do anything with this implied domain. It just tells us the years that it should be accurate for. Where t equals 0 corresponds to 2010. All right, so the first problem, it's either going to ask to plug into the original. If it says average change, we're going to plug into the slope, or if it says change at an instant, we're going to plug into the derivative. So we have three options here. It says, what was the number of bank failures in 2011? Do you see the word change? Does it say how fast was something happening? No, it doesn't have any indications that we're talking about change. We're just talking about the number of bank failures in 2011, which means I'm going to plug into the original. So 2011 is what t-value? This one we might not need to count on our fingers because it's very close to the original one. 0 is 2010, 1 is 2011. I swear it helps on some of them to just count on your hands if you have to. So we have t equals 1. And so we're just plugging into the original. We're going to do f of 1. And we're plugging into 48 e to the negative 0.83 times 1. So grabbing your calculator, what is e to the negative 0.83 times 48? I would definitely practice this, that the first time you don't do it is on like a quiz or a test. It's better to know how to use your e button than not, and you can always email me and show me a picture of your calculator and I can help you. What you should get is 20.9303657. I'm going to read my calculator correctly. 20.9303657. So there's only 20 banks failing. That's pretty good 2 years after a recession, or 1 year after a recession for this one. 2011, 1 year later? No, that doesn't sound right. It is in what? Our units for the output are in thousands. So I'm going to move this over, and how many bank failures were there really in 2011? There were still 20,930 bank failures after the recession in 2008. Still a lot of banks failing. And now the second part says, how fast was the number of bank failures changing in 2011? So I see the word changing. Is it change at an instant, or does it say average rate of change? It's change at just one instant. Just in 2011, where t equals 1 still, changing at one instant means we're going to take the derivative and plug in t equals 1. So looking at this function, just copying down the original so we can take the derivative of it, it is 48 e to the negative 0.83 t. I have rule 6 in here. I'm going to keep my constant multiple, 48. F prime of t is going to start with that 48. And then I'm going to do the derivative of the power. Negative 0.83 t has a derivative of negative 0.83. Derivative of the power times e to the original power. And you could multiply these constants together if you want to. You certainly don't have to in order to plug in 1 to this. Whatever is easier on your calculator. For a graphing calculator, you probably don't have to combine them. For a scientific, it depends on which one you have, but you might. I'm not going to combine them here, just because I don't want to come up with a crazy decimal, and I did on the last one. So 48 times negative 0.83 times e to the negative 0.83 times 1 is just to the negative 0.83 still. What you should get is negative 17 0.37220. It keeps going. Remember our units. It is a rate of change, so I have 2 units. So I'm not saying there's negative 17 banks that failed. You can't have negative 17 of a bank. It's like counting people and saying there's negative 17 people. So the reason why it's negative is because it's a rate of change. So let's multiply it by 1,000, first of all, to account for our units. It's negative 17,372 bank failures. And it's a rate of change per year. So what that means is the number of banks failing that year was decreasing by about 17,000. So negative means the derivative tells you that the slope is decreasing at that instant. So there were about 21,000 banks that failed that year, but the rate of change is it was decreasing by 17,000 bank failures per year in that year. So it's going to be way less in 2012, which is good. The economy is starting to recover. So there's a big difference between plugging into the original and just getting a number out and plugging into the derivative, and you're getting a rate of change positive. It means it's increasing. Like this one, they were increasing by 120 vehicles per year because the derivative was positive, where this one is negative, and that tells you they were decreasing by 17,000 bank failures per year that year. So you could try the next one and see how it goes. It's kind of combining everything we just talked about. Remember, with a word problem, don't be intimidated. You're plugging into the original, the slope formula, or the derivative. Only 3 options here.